Good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to Jim's 5am Club. And today I'm coming to you from a different location. I'm on holidays. I'm not working in the city for a couple of weeks, so my Jim's 5am Clubs will be coming from different locations. So today I've gone on a little bushwalk, probably about a kilometre from my home. Haven't been down here before, but I thought I'd just do a bit of adventuring and looking around. And I'm just standing below a bridge, below a car bridge. And I drive over this bridge basically every day. And thought that it'd be nice just to come down here and experience some nostalgia. Because when I was a kid, I remember always with my friends, what we would do is we'd get up in the morning, get on our bikes and just go adventuring. And one of the places that we used to love to go to was a park which was next to the railway tracks, and under the railway tracks was a creek or a little brook where we'd look for frogs, tadpoles, and basically spend our day laughing, playing, and just messing about. So today was my little opportunity to try and relive my childhood. Let me just turn the camera around. To relive my childhood and just be a little bit adventurous and come down here and sit under the bridge and just do a 5am club in this little bolt hole, this place where I just feel at peace and at ease. So what I'll do today is I'll go through a book summary. I did a book summary earlier on a book called Feeling Good by David D. Burns. And in that book, he made some very powerful observations in terms of how many people are infected and face challenges in their lives because of the cognitive distortions that they have. These cognitive distortions are just irrational fears, irrational thoughts, things that are blown out of proportion, which impact the way they see the world, but also cause them grief, because these distortions tend to be negative. You know, it'd be wonderful if we could replace these negative cognitive distortions with positive cognitive distortions. But the author talks about these negative cognitive distortions, and there's a call to action to try and sort them out, do something about them, else you suffer. They take you to a dark place and make your life a misery. But most importantly, they not only make your life a misery, they make the lives of the people around you a misery as well. So it's all about managing your thoughts, managing your cognitive distortions. But one of the ways of managing those cognitive distortions is first becoming aware of what these cognitive distortions are. And the author also says that it's important on a daily basis to read out these cognitive distortions, to remind you of what is going on in the background, and to embolden you to take them on and to talk back to your self-critic and to make sure that these cognitive distortions are managed. They're not going to disappear, they're not going to leave us, because we all have these things happening in the background, but we need to learn to manage the cognitive distortions. So we'll start off with the biggest, ugliest and worst cognitive distortion that we all face in our lives, and it's something that causes a lot of grief to a lot of people. And the first cognitive distortion, which the author says is the worst. So this one here, if you can get your mind around this one here, it will help you solve many, many challenges and problems that you could possibly face in your life, and lead you to a lighter, a more happy place. So the first cognitive distortion is the all or nothing thinking. How many times in our lives do we have people issue us with an ultimatum? It's all or nothing. It's this or that. And what the author says is that's all bullshit. There's no all or nothing, because along every decision path is a spectrum, is a full spectrum of options. Just like 6 and 4 can equal 10, 5 and 5 can equal 10, 2 and 8 can equal 10, 9 and 0 can equal 10. There are various options. There are various options and choices that you can make, and there are multiple choices that you can make to get to the same solution. As they say, there's more than one way to skin a cat, and there's more than one way to solve a problem. So don't allow other people to trap you into thinking that it's all or nothing. You can always come back to them and say there's more than one way to achieve what we want to achieve, and not to be pressured into this all or nothing thinking. Because what this all or nothing thinking suggests is that we are infected with perfectionism. And perfectionism is all about the detail and making sure that everything is perfect. You've got to understand one thing: nothing is perfect in life. You'll never ever experience perfection. It's good and proper and well to try and strive for perfection, but you'll never achieve perfection. And if you're always trying to be perfect, you're going to live a life of suffering. So we need to change the way we think about things, and it's not about all or nothing, because all or nothing makes you feel inadequate. It makes you feel helpless. It makes you feel worthless. And it's called dichotomous thinking. We need to avoid falling into these traps of dichotomous thinking, and not to allow ourselves or other people to force us to think that it's all or nothing. So that's the first cognitive distortion that we need to manage, we need to be aware of, and we need to deal with. And it's, as we said, it's irrational to think that it's all or nothing. Open up your mind, open up your courage to push back on anybody who tries to insist that it's all or nothing, and to know that there are more options. There is a lot of grey area. There's a lot of grey area that sits between black and white. So steer clear of the absolutes, the people who are absolutely this or absolutely that, or it must be this or it must be that, because those people are going to lead you to a place of punishment and suffering, including your own conscience. So learn to talk back. The other thing that is a cognitive distortion that we need to be aware of and to be careful of is the tendency to generalize and to overgeneralize. Overgeneralization is a deathbed for creativity. We tend to think and fall into the trap that what occurred once will happen again and again and again. We've got to understand one thing and get one thing clear in our heads. Our past isn't our future. Your past isn't my future. Just because it happened once or twice doesn't mean it's going to happen again and again. Because life is variable. We all live different presents, and we're all going to experience a different future. You know, we're all out there fishing on the wharf. There could be 100 people fishing, using the same bait, the same rig, the same line, and yet one person will be catching fish and the other 99 will be catching nothing. You know, things just happen, so you don't generalise, and you mustn't overgeneralise and make things worse for yourself, especially if you're overgeneralising in a negative way. You know, so be careful of overgeneralisation, and be careful of being around people who are quick to generalise and to overgeneralise. The third cognitive distortion that the author tries to make us aware of is the mental filter. Be careful not to dwell on negative things, to dwell on negative detail, to dwell on thoughts, to dwell on what people said, and to try and second guess and trying to work out what it meant. So there are some people who are just destined. I don't know why. You know, you just speak to people, and what they'll do is they'll just filter out everything positive and just dwell and just see the negative. It's just mind-boggling. Why can't you just filter out all the negative and focus on the positive? Why do you have to focus on the negative all the bloody time, is the message which comes from this author. And from a psychological perspective, it's called selective abstraction. And it causes, and the author says it causes needless anguish. It's irrational. It's an irrational way of seeing the world, to filter out the positives and to just live in fear and just to see and think and even will on the negative. There are people out there who will will on a recession, that are willing on share market crash, that are willing on property prices dropping by 40% or more. Why would you will that stuff on? What benefit does it create in your life or in other people's lives around you? The chances of it happening are fairly remote. And even if it is a good chance of happening, why would you be willing it on? Because all it's going to do is create anxiety to the people around you. And if it does happen, our lives are going to be stuffed anyway. Everybody's life is going to be stuffed if these things eventuate. So it's going to be chaos, it's going to be an absolute disaster, and life's not going to be worth living anyway if it happens. So don't dwell on it, don't will it, and don't have it infecting your life and the people around you. It's not adding value, trust me. The fourth cognitive distortion the author makes us aware of is disqualifying the positive. There are people out there who will turn a neutral situation or even a positive situation, they'll twist it into a negative situation. They've got a knack of turning things around by disqualifying the positive and shaping it and spinning it into a negative. These people are not only their own worst enemies, but they're your worst enemy as well. So be careful not to hang out with people who are spin doctors, but negative spin doctors, because all they're doing is sowing and spreading fear, uncertainty and doubt. I call them the Mr. or Mrs. Fuds of the world. Fear, uncertainty and doubt, which doesn't create any value, and it just creates absolute pain and suffering. And it's not welcome, I'm telling you right here and now. Those sorts of people, those sorts of thoughts are not welcomed in any social circle other than the social circle of the people who are just all of the same mindset. The fifth Cognitive distortion is another wonderful one. How many times are you hanging out with people, or you're with people who automatically jump to conclusions, but they don't automatically jump to positive conclusions. They'll always jump to a negative conclusion. They'll always see the worst in the situation. They're always expecting the worst. And it just bloody pisses me off. No, why be a fortune teller if all you're seeing is negative imagery and bad expectations leading forward? If you're going to read my fortune, I want you to see the good things that are going to happen in my life and not the bad things. So think about it. Think about the people, and think about yourself jumping to negative conclusions. The sixth cognitive distortion is a powerful one. It's magnification and minimalization. And the author says that there are people out there, and you do it to yourself and other people do it for you. There are people out there who will exaggerate and magnify the negativity and the fears and the pain and the suffering, and create anxiety, and they'll magnify the imperfections and the errors, and they'll be catastrophizing everything around them. So they're making everything else look big, bad and ugly, and making the good things look so small, tiny and insignificant. So they'll magnify all the other people's benefits and strengths and minify their own strengths or good things that are happening in their lives. It's called the binocular trick. You know when you get binoculars and you turn them around, and instead of seeing everything magnified and big, you turn them around and you look through the other lens looking back, and everything looks tiny and insignificant. So be careful of the magnification and minimalization, because what you should do is learn to do the same thing but in reverse. Magnify the benefits and the good, and minimalize the terrible and the fearful. The seventh cognitive issue that the author talks about is emotional reasoning. We sometimes think about our emotions and use our emotions and our feelings to project our self-image, only to realize that our emotions are a reflection of our thoughts and beliefs. So if you've got negative thoughts and negative beliefs, then your emotions and feelings are going to be impacted. So you're going to see the world differently. So be very, very careful about your emotional reasoning, especially if you've got negative thoughts and negative beliefs, because it's just going to reinforce what you believe and what you think about. So be very, very careful how you emotionally use your emotional reasoning, because it can be your friend and it also can be your enemy. The other thing that the author talks about is the importance of managing the way you talk to yourself and the way you use the word should. So the word should is quite damaging according to the author, and you should try and replace the word should with the words "it would be nice if." So should is a little bit too harsh, and it leads to problems. The ninth challenge that we need to be aware of is our labelling and our mislabeling of feelings, of our image and things around us. We need to make sure that we don't have a negative self-image. We need to be sure that we're not mislabeling events and using inaccurate language and being emotionally heavy in terms of how we load our words to describe the things that are happening around us. And the last one is to be careful of personalization. It's a cognitive distortion. Personalization is where we assume responsibility for things that we have no control over. Anyway, they're the 10 cognitive distortions that we need to be aware of. And the author suggests that we read those on a daily basis and understand what they are, acknowledge what they are, and know that they're operating not only in our lives, but also in the lives of the people around us, our children, our grandchildren, our parents, our grandparents, our friends, our relatives, to be aware that these cognitive issues are deluding us and causing grief. But you can get on top of it. You can change it. You can flip it. You can flip those cognitive challenges and turn them around. And instead of them working as a negative influence on your life, you can get them to work as a positive influence. It's just a matter of perspective. It's just a matter of you changing the way they work and making them work for you as opposed to working against you. Anyway, let's finish off with a positive affirmation. I'm alive, I am well, and I feel absolutely great. To my friends and family, stay connected, stay relevant, and most importantly, let's take some of these learnings from this wonderful book and make it work in our lives, and be aware that we all have cognitive issues that impact our lives and in many ways are working against us. So let me just find my note, and my glasses are in my pocket, and we'll finish up with where are we? With a final note from the book, Feeling Good. So just make sure that you're aware of the cognitive distortions that we have in our lives and to manage it. And once you manage it, then all of those depressive thoughts, all of those pervasive negative thoughts that are bringing you or other people down in your life can be managed effectively and instantly once you take control of your thoughts. So thank you once again for joining me on Jim's 5am Club. I look forward to coming to you again tomorrow from another location with another message. As I mentioned before, I'm on holidays now, so it won't be as many circular key sort of vistas, but we'll see where we can go, what we can do, and how to keep it interesting and engaging. So I look forward to coming to you again tomorrow from a different location with a different message. And hopefully it's a message, of course, of empowerment, something to lift us and get us through the morning, through the day, and something to get us thinking about what's going well and what's going right in our lives, and to make us aware of the challenges that some people may face, and to give some practical solutions in terms of what can be done to sort it out and make all of our lives much better and worth living. Anyway, take care, be lucky, from Jim's 5am Club, and we'll chat again tomorrow. Yassas, and bye for now. Cheers.